This conference will now be recorded.
So in the previous session, we have discussed about the concept of class and how can we define a class inside your Apex programming and how to define the members inside the class we have discussed. We have discussed how to define a class and the class members inside. Now, so once a class has been getting defined with the required members, then how can we access those class members? How to access the class members that already we have discussed. In order to access the class members, we need a reference, we need a key that is called as an object. Now today we'll see how can we create the object of a class. We'll see practically in this case, and then we'll see the concept of ORM. So if you know this today's concept, if you understood the today's concept, okay, the next 6 to 7 sessions will be very easy for you. So now, for example,
1 minute. So you are using the word reference and instance frequently. So what does that mean?
So now reference means what? In order to access that class members, I'm using a key or a reference. Reference in the sense this is one of that object, okay, which will be holding the address of that memory. So that we are using a reference. That means we are using the memory address that is called as object. Because if you want to locate this one, okay, if you want to locate this one, if you want to get this member, then first of all we have to know in which class these members are available. So that class reference, that means the class memory address we should be aware of. For that one, that address we can store inside your object. So that when coming to that class, whatever the members are available inside the class, if we want to access those members, then we need a reference that is called as object. Like for example, assume that I'm a person. How do you recognize me? Based on my name only, right? Yes. If you want to call me or if you want to reference me, then you should be aware of my name. Based on my name only, we can able to access. Then only based on the name, you can recognize some properties. Okay, my designation, okay, my qualification, okay, how I'm looking like, okay, and then what I'm doing, everything we can able to recognize. Based on the name only, we can refer it, we can able to get. That means that name we are using it as a reference. Like the similar way, inside this particular class, I'm having some set of members are there. In order to access these members, we need a reference that is called as object. So in this case, when coming to the object, object is nothing but a logical entity. Why I'm using the word logical? Because object will be holding the values. Where it is storing the values? Inside the memory. Memory in the sense hard disk. Can we see that memory? No, we can't see that. So that I'm using the word logical, like as a virtual. So now in this case, when coming to the object, okay, object is nothing but a logical entity, so which is used to access the class and its members. In order to access the class and its members, we are using a reference that is called as an object. That's what here, this object is also called as an instance of a class. Okay, it's an instance of a class. So virtual copy of a class through which we can able to access the members, we can store the values by assigning them. Now, so in this case here, when coming to the object, let me give the notes and then let me show you the practical part here, how to define the object for a class, what is the syntax and how to access the members. We'll see one note. Object is nothing but an instance of a class. Object is nothing but an instance of a class. By using object, we can reference the class and we can access all the class members and we can assign the values. We can assign the values for the class members. And we can assign the values for the class members. So whatever the members are available inside the class, that means whatever the variables, properties, constructors, procedures, functions, whatever the members are available inside that class, those members we can able to access, and then we can assign some values for those class members also with the help of this object. So in this case, that already told you in the previous session itself during that object-oriented programming concept itself that I told you, a class can have one or more number of objects also. Okay? A class can have one or more number of objects. And then each object will be having its own memory. Each object will hold a separate set of values for each and every. That already we have discussed about that concept also. Then how can we define this object? Now let's see practically. Syntax. Now, simple concept. So why we are defining the object? If you want to access the class member, then we need object. Simple concept. Whatever the class we have defined, in this class I have defined some variables. But for these variables, have I assigned any values right now? No. If I'm not assigning any value, then what is the variable Salesforce will store by default? Null. Null will be storing by Salesforce by default, but I don't want to assign null. I want to assign some value for these members. If you want to assign some values for these members, then we have to use the help of object. So we are going to be creating the object of this class, and then through that object we can able to access the members and we can assign the value for those members. Then how to create the object of the class? Now let's see practically in this case. We can specify the class name and then specify the object name equals to new class name, and then specify the open braces in close braces. So now in this case, what happened? This is the class name. That means for which class you want me to create the object. Okay, for which class you are going to be creating the object. So you can specify the name of the class, and then you can specify the object name. That means what is the name of that object? Okay, what is the name of that object? Now, so we can specify the name of the object over there. What is the name of that object with which you would like to create? And then I'm indicating the keyword new. New keyword is for what? New keyword is for dynamic memory allocation. Okay, new keyword is for dynamic memory allocation. So keyword is for dynamic memory allocation. That means dynamically at runtime it will be allocating the memory code. Dynamic memory allocation. This is the name of the object here. With which name you are creating the object, you can specify that name of that object over here. This is the object. So now let's see how can we create the object over here. Now, for example, assume that I have a class. I have a class. So what is that class name? This is the class. Product details is the class. How to create the object of this class? Now let's see. I'm indicating product details. I'm giving the object name over here, P details. So you can give any name. Simply we can give the P also, A, B, C, X, Y, Z, anything we can give for the object. Product details. So P details equals to new product details. I'm creating the object over here. Now, can I have multiple objects for the same class? Yes. Now, we can have the multiple objects for the same class also. The class can have one or more objects. Like for example, I'm creating the object. Product details, P details, 1 equals to new product details. This is one object I'm creating for the class. Product details, P details 2 equals to new product details. That means here, for this class, I have created two objects over here. So this is the first object name, this is the second object name. So whenever I'm creating the two objects for the same class, object names should be different. Object names should be always unique. We can't create two objects with the same name. Okay, we can't create two objects with the same name for a class. So upon creating the multiple objects for the same class, we have to give the unique name for the objects. Okay, we have to give the unique name for the objects. We can't create the two objects with the same name. The object name should be always unique as part of the Salesforce instance. This is how we are going to be creating the object of the class. Now, so in this case, by using this object, what we can do, we are going to be allocating the value for the variables. We are going to be assigning the values. So by using this object, we can assign the values also for the variable. Then how can we assign the value? Assign the values. Now I will show you. By using the object, we can assign the values for the class members. By using the object, we can assign the values for the class members. So whatever the class members are there, whatever the variables are available, for those variables we can assign the values. Why? Because if I'm not assigning any value, then by default Apex will be storing the default value as null. I don't want to store the null value. I want to assign something. So that here we are using the help of object. Through this object, we can assign some value for that class members over there. For each and every member, we can able to assign the values over there. The facilities are available. Then how can we assign that value for the class member? Now let's see. What is the syntax? Now let's see. The syntax is we can specify the object name dot member name. That means the variable name. And equals to we can assign value. So what is the value you want to assign over here that we can specify? Object name dot variable name. So if it is an array, we are using array name of 0 equals to some value, array name of 1 equals to some value. Like the similar way, here we are using object name dot variable name equals to the value we can assign. So in this case, there as part of my product details class here. What are the various numbers are available? Product code, quantity, product name, manufacturer, contact number, everything is available. So let me show you one sample example over here. How can we do that? For example, this is the class that I have. This is the class that we have. So now I want to create the object of this class. How can we create the object of the class? Product details, some p details equals to new product details. Product details, some p details equals to new product details. That means I have created the object of the class. Then how can we assign the values for these members over here? So simply we can use p details, nothing but object names are variable name. What is the variable name? Product code equals to some 23440056. Assume that this is the value I'm assigning. So we can assign the value object name dot variable name, and the p details dot quantity. I'm assigning the value some 2500. P details dot product name. I'm assigning the value like some laptop. P details dot manufacturer. I'm indicating like as some HP incorporation. P details dot contact number. I'm giving some value plus 91 or some plus 1. I'm indicating the value. P details dot manufacturing date. I'm indicating system dot today. You know, today function is used to collect the today's date. P details dot expiry date equals to system dot today dot add years. Today dot add years of some 10. After 10 years, the product will be getting expired. And then unit price. P details dot unit price equals to, I'm indicating some 37,500. And then P details dot is in stock. I'm going to be assigning the value like as 2. So now currently the product is available in stock. So that this product is available right now in the market, so that you can able to buy the product here by through online or by visiting the store. Like that here we can able to indicate that. So we can create the class over here. Okay, we can create the class and then we can able to define the members inside the class, and whenever the members have been getting defined, we can access each and every member with the help of the object. So that create an object of the class and then we can assign the values for each and every member. We can act by accessing through the object of the class itself. Now, so now here in this case, how can you do this? How to implement this functionality over? Now let's see in this case. Now, and then once the values have been getting assigned for this class members, then how can we retrieve the values? We have prepared the class and then we have assigned the values for this class members and then we are able to retrieve the values. Then how can we retrieve the values? So that already told you, by using this object, not only assigning the value, we can retrieve the values also. That means with the help of this object, we can perform both read and write operation on your class members. Whatever the class members are available, on those class members, we can perform both read and write operations on this. That facility is available over here. Now let's see then how to perform the read operation. As of now, we did write. Writing means assigning. Reading means retrieving here. How can we retrieve here? Now, we can access the class members with the help of the object as below. So what is the syntax? We can able to use that object name dot member name or variable. We can able to access that variable by using this object name dot member name or variable name. With the help of this one, we can able to access each and every member one by one. That facility is available. Now, so in this case, with the help of this object, we can able to access this members also. Then how can we do that? Now let me show you. I'm indicating that system.debug product code is, how can we access the product code? By using p-details.product code. Okay, like as arrays only a simple concept. There we are using array name of 0, array name of 1. But here we are using object name dot variable name here. That's it. System.debug product name. Product name is, I'm going to indicate p-details.product. System.debug unit price. Like that, we can able to access each and every member over here. So depends upon your application requirement, we can able to access each and every member of that particular class by using the help of object. This is how we are going to be creating the classes. We can create the objects and then we can able to access each and every member by assigning some values and by retrieving the values with the help of that object. This is the functionality of class and object, and now we'll see the practical example of this one in order to describe the practical part of it. Now let's see a practical part of it. How can we do this? So let me take a small use case. create an Apex class to manage the project details and assign the values and retrieve the values from the variables or from the members by using object of the class. This is my requirement. I want to create an Apex class. With the help of this Apex class, we can able to access each and every member, and we can assign the values, we can retrieve the values. Now, let's see how can we do that. Now, tell me related to the project, what kind of details we can manage. For each and every project, we'll be having a project code. Okay, for every project, we are having a project code. And then, along with that, you will be having the project title. What is the title of the project? We can able to store. And then, we can have the client name. Okay, who will be the client for whom we are developing this project? We can specify the client name also. And the budgeted cost. Okay, what is the cost over here for the project? And then what is the start date of the project? What is the end date of the project? And then what is the team size? How many members are there in this team who are working for this same project? Including project manager, including developers and testers and everything. And then we can able to indicate the project progress, whether the project has been started implementing or not. I want to know this. For that one, I would like to have, okay, I would like to have that the variable over here, which is indicating whether that project has been started or not. These are the members I want to define inside my class. Now, how to define the class? Now, let's see. You know that how to define the class. Let's go to the developer console, create an Apex class. Now, I'm creating an Apex class. How to create the Apex class? Already you know. Go to that file menu, click on new Apex class. I'm defining the Apex class here. I'm giving the class name like as some project details or the project management or project details helper. I'm giving the class name as project details helper. Now, so this is the class name, public class project details helper. Inside this class, I'm defining the membership. Public integer project code and the team size. That means what is the code of that project over here? What is the team size? And then I'm indicating that project title and the client name. Who is the client for whom we are developing the project? Public decimal budget cost. What is the cost of that project? So what is the budget we have reported for this project? Public date, start date, and end date. I would like to indicate the start date of the project and the end date of the project. Public Boolean is started, is in progress. Whether the project has been started or not. So this is the class which I'm defining right now with the required members. I have defined a class with the name project details a helper, and then I have defined some set of members inside it. Now, I have defined some related members of the project here, like a project code, team size, project title, client name, budget cost, start date of the project, end date of the project, and then is in progress. Whether the project is in progress or not, I want to indicate. So let me save this class. Then where we can create the object over here? Object creation means what? Invoking that class members, invoking that class variables. We are accessing the class members. Then where we can invoke that? Upon executing the Apex programming code, how many ways are there? 9 ways are available that already we have discussed. From that one, we know one way, that is called as execute anonymous window. So go to the execute anonymous window over here. Go to that execute anonymous window. Now here what we can do, we can create the object of the class. I'm giving the comments also. Creating the object of the class. For your information, I'm giving some comments also. I'm creating the object. What is the object class name? Project details helper. This is a class name. I'm indicating like some p helper equals to new project details helper. I'm creating the object of the class. So now whenever I'm creating the object for this object here, it will be allocating the memory by Salesforce. So Apex compiler is going to be allocating the memory for the object, not for the class. Now, in this case, how can we assign the values? Whenever I'm creating the object, by default, every member inside the class will be assigned with the value null. Okay, assigned with the value null. So whenever I'm creating the object for a class, so then in this case, what that object will do is initially it will be allocating the value as null for every class member. Whatever the members are available inside the class, for every member, it will be allocating the value as null. Now, then how can we assign the values over here? That already you know. Assigning the values. Assigning the values. Like some p helper dot project code equals to some 2356900. Assume that I'm assigning some value. This is the project code. Next, what is the second number here? Team size. Team size equals to some 12 members. We are having the 10 members are developers and 2 members like as testers. So totally 12 members of team that we have for this project. P helper dot client name, for which client we are developing the project. I'm indicating that client name as Summer Incorporation. We are developing the project for one of our pharma client, that is Merck. P helper dot project title. Okay, project title. I'm giving the title of the project here, like as Story Pulse. I'm giving the project title as Story Pulse. P helper dot start date. So I would like to collect the today's date with the start date, so that I'm indicating system dot today. P helper dot end date. What will be the end date of the project here? Client has given the 3 months of time. 3 months means 90 days. System dot today dot add days of 90. Client has even given 90 days of time over here. P helper dot is in progress. That means whether the project has been started or not. So that here I'm assigning the value as true. So that project has been started implementing right now. Okay. Now this is the way we are going to be defining the variables here, and then we can assign the values. So this is how we are going to be creating the object of the class. Through this object, we can able to access each and every class member, and then we can assign the values. Once the values have been getting assigned, then how can we print the values? Print the values. Then how can we do that? System.debug project code is phelper dot project code. Phelper dot project code. Now, in this case, system.debug project title. Project title is, how can we collect the project title? Phelper dot project title. That means object name dot variable name. That's it. Simple concept. System.debug client name. Client name is phelper dot client name. System.debug budget cost is phelper dot budget cost. System.debug project start date. Project start date is, I want to indicate that. Phelper dot start date. I'm using that format. Why? Because is here it will be showing the complete time zone value also. Let me show you. Okay. I will show you first start date and then I will show you why I'm using format function. P dot start date. System.debug project end date. Phelper dot. Okay. Now that's it. Simple. So now simply we can able to create the object of the class. Once the class has been defined, then create the object of the class and assign the values for these class members and then retrieve the values. That means print the values. Simple concept. So first of all, class should be created. Create the class first and then assign, create the object of the class in the execute anonymous window and then assign the values and then print the values. That's simple concept. Now click on execute button. So it is indicating that variable does not exist. Okay, is in progress. So now there is a spelling mistake inside this. Okay, is in progress in the sense here I have given that gr. Okay, I did some spelling mistake. Now click on execute. The request has been sent to the server. Let's see the results. Select the debug only checkbox. Now it is indicating that. It is indicating that project code value, project title, client name, budget cost is null. It is showing like as budgeted cost over here. Why it is showing that value null? So here we haven't assigned any value here. If we did not assign any value, it will be showing the value as null. So let me assign phelper dot budget cost. Like as I'm going to be indicating like as so some 12 crores. I'm assigning some value. Now click on execute. Now, so now click on execute. Now let's see the results. Select the debug only checkbox. Now we can see that. Project code, title, client name, budget cost, project start date, and the end date. But it is showing like as including okay date and that starting hours here. But I don't want this 0000 like this. I want to remove this one. For that one, we are using a method called as a dot format. There is a ready-made method has been given by Salesforce, that is dot format. P helper dot start date dot format. Please format this date value. Click on execute. Now let's see the result. Now we can remove that timing part of it. So now we can see that actual only the date. Project code value, title, client name, budget cost, and the start date and the end date. This is how we are going to be defining the class. We can assign the values with the help of an object and we can retrieve the value. Let me place this code inside your notes. For information, I'm giving this one. This is from developer console. And execution process. Execute anonymous window. How can we do that? Now let me explain. So this is from execute anonymous window. This is a way we are going to be defining the classes and with the required members. We can create the objects, assign the values, retrieve the values. This is the concept of class and an object.
Good.
Yes?
Feroz, I have one question over here.
Yeah, tell me.
While assigning the value to the variables in the
Okay.
end date, you have done that system.today.add dates.
Okay.
What is the function of add?
Now, in this case, it will be collecting the today's date, and for that date, it will be adding 90 days from now onwards. System.today means what? It will be collecting the today's system date, Salesforce server date, and for that date, it will be adding 90 days. That means from now onwards, 90 days, it will prepare the date, that value will be storing inside.
Can we write this as system.today plus 90?
System.today.
System.today plus 90. Can we write like this?
No, we can't write that plus symbol.
Okay.
So, because here we have to add that days, number of days we have to add over here.
Okay, sir.
This is how we are going to be defining the variables and the objects, and we can able to access that numbers as well. Like the similar way, I'm giving some assignments to you. The first one. Create an Apex class to manage the employee details and assign the values and retrieve the values with the help of an object. Assign the values and retrieve the values with the help of an object. You know, generally for an employee, what kind of data we can collect, what kind of details we can have, you know that. So based on that, we can able to define the variables and we can able to create the object and we can able to do all the other actions. The next one. Create an Apex class to manage the customer details and assign the values and print the values by using an object. With the help of an object, we can able to print the values as well. Third one, create an Apex class to define, to manage. Yes. Create an Apex class to manage the product details and assign the values and print the values. So these are the three assignments that I'm giving to you so that we can do the similar process. Create a class with the required name, with the specified name, define the members, and then create the object of the class, assign the values, and retrieve the values, okay, by using this object, and then print them onto the debug log file by using system.debug statement.
Firoz, I have one doubt.
Yes.
Instead of creating an object, can we assign values directly to the class by using
No,
class
no,
members?
No, Salesforce won't allow. Directly, we can't
Okay.
assign the value for the class member.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
For example, let's see. Assume that I'm defining a member inside my class. Public integer age. I'm giving some 100. Generally, we should not do this one. Okay. If I'm doing this one here, then it will be the fixed value. But generally, we have to do it inside the constructor. Within the constructor only, we have to do that. Okay. Don't assign the values. Don't hard code the values here. Make it as dynamic. Through object only here, we can able to assign that values. We can make it dynamic. Because in the real time, hard coded values are not acceptable. Only the dynamic values will be acceptable in the real time. Don't go with the hard coded. Suppose if there is any fixed values are there, fixed size is there, and then at that time we can able to store inside a custom label. Okay, as part of development, we'll use a feature called as custom label. There we can store and we can access dynamically at runtime. Like for example, sometimes there are some fixed values are there. Like when you go to some government taxes, the tax value will be keep on changing. Okay, keep on changing. Like as for every 2 years or for every 5 years, if the government is increasing the tax rate or they're decreasing that, then we have to change that value. So in this case, if I'm hard coding that value inside the code, inside that class, then wherever we have used that code, everywhere we have to modify that. But we can't remember, okay, what are all the places I have used this variable. For that reason, we have to define a custom label. In that custom label, we can assign that and we can access variable. So always you have to make it dynamic. For example, assume that, so recently I think you will be having some government, whenever you are going to be going for a MRO office in order to have some registration. Okay, to register office in order to have the registration of your flat or a open flat also, whatever, anything. So at that time, there will be some fixed prices there, which we need to pay to the government as a tax. Like as you will be having some 7.5% or 7%, there is a fixed charges there. But government is keep on increasing this charge. Maybe, so now after 15 days, government is going to be increasing the charge over there. Okay, after this August 15th onward, they are going to be increasing that registration charges. So at that time, instead of 7, it will be having 7.5 or 8 also. At that time, automatically registration cost will be keep on increasing. When you go to the GST, the government has defined that GST as 3% on jewelry. Maybe in future, they may be increasing that also. Professional tax, income tax, property tax, everything, there are some fixed values are there right now. And those values may be increasing by the government also according to their situation. So at that time, we need to make the changes in one place. The same changes has to be reflected in multiple places also, very, very important. But that one, don't hard code the values inside the class. Hard coded values are not acceptable in the real time. It's a plain thumb rule. We have to follow these kind of best practices and the principles upon writing the code.
Got it, coach.
The next one. So now we'll see the feature called as ORM. We'll see a feature called as ORM. Then what exactly the ORM? ORM stands for object relationships and map. Object relationship and mapping. ORM stands for object relationship and mapping. Then what is this object relationship and the mapping? What is the functionality of ORM? Nowadays, ORM is the most popular. It's the latest one in the IT industry. Suppose if anybody is from Java background, if anybody is aware of Java programming, so the people are learning the Java codes like as core Java, and then they are learning advanced Java, and then J2, and then they are learning some frameworks like as Struts framework, Spring framework, Hibernate framework. These are the frameworks the people are learning right now. But in this case, all these frameworks has been defined or implemented by using ORM. What are the frameworks the people are going to be learning as part of the Java course? Okay, those frameworks are purely built upon ORM. Okay, so these are the latest frameworks. Struts framework, Spring framework, Hibernate. These are the latest frameworks which the people are learning as part of Java course, which are purely built upon ORM. So when you go to some .NET programming, the people are learning some features like link. Okay, the people are learning link, language integrated query. Okay, language integrated query. This language integrated query is purely built upon ORM. Okay, ORM, object relationship and the mapping. Now, when coming to the Salesforce, Salesforce has purely built that CRM application on ORM. Okay, Salesforce people has developed that Salesforce CRM application purely on ORM. Then what is the benefit of this ORM right now? What the ORM will do? Okay, what the ORM will do for me? Now let's see practically in this case. Now, let me explain. Generally, nobody will discuss this ORM concept. So what the ORM will do is, it will be transforming your objects into the classes. It will be transforming your objects into the classes. Now let me explain. So that already told you, for example, I'm creating a custom object. I'm creating a custom object with the name customer. Whenever I'm creating a custom object with the name customer, what kind of features Salesforce will provide? Salesforce is providing a table. And then it is providing a tab. That means user interface. Third one, it is providing a business logic. Business logic will be available in the form of class. Now, so now what is the table name? I'm creating an object with the name customer. What is the table name? So now the table name will be customer __ C. Because every custom object name will be postfixing with __ C in order to indicate this is a custom object. C means custom. And then user interface. So what is the tab name? Tab name is customers, plural form. What is the business logic class? Business logic class name is customer __ That means it is preparing a class. Whatever the name that was given for the object, with the same name it is creating a class. You know what is class right now. You know what the class contains. You know how to create the object of the class. You know how to access the members, how to retrieve the values also, how to print the values also, how to assign the values also. You know that right now. So in this case, whenever I'm creating an object in Salesforce, then each and every object has been represented in the form of a class. That means whatever the name that was given for that object, with the same name it is creating a class also. Then who is creating this class? This class is preparing by Salesforce. Because of what? ORM. That means what? When coming to the ORM, ORM represents or ORM transforms each and every table in the form of a class. ORM transforms or ORM represents each and every table in the form of a class, where the table name and the class name will be exactly similar. Now, in this case, what the ORM will do here? Step 1. ORM transforms each object, each Salesforce object in the form of a class, where ORM transforms each Salesforce object in the form of a class, where the object name and the class name should be similar, where the object name and the class name should be similar. Like for example, account object will be transformed as a class. Class account. That means object name is also account, class name is also account. How the class will look like? It will be looking like as public class account. It is the class given by Salesforce here. Class members. So whatever the account object is available, account object will be representing in the form of a class that is also having the same name like as your object name. Object name is also account and then class name is also account. Now I'm having that lead object here. Lead object will be represented in the form of lead class. Lead object will be represented in the form of lead class. So how it will be representing? Public class lead. Who will prepare this class? Salesforce is preparing all these classes internally. And then I'm having my opportunity object here. Opportunity object will be represented in the form of opportunity class. The form of opportunity class. like public class opportunity. You will be having that class methods. If you're having a position object over here, position object will be represented in the form of position underscore C class. What are the position object that you have created that will be representing in the form of position underscore C class? Like as it will be having public class position underscore C, it will be having the class methods. I'm having the candidate object here, for example. Candidate object will be represented in the form of candidate underscore C class. Like for example, it will be having public class candidate. Will be having the numbers. This is the first step. As a step 1, ORM is going to be transforming each and every object in the form of a class. That means every table will be represented. Every table will be converting in the form of a class. That is the first functionality of ORM. So ORM transforms each and every object in the form of a class. This is the first functionality of ORM. Now, if there is an object, then what it contains internally? Each and every object contains some fields. Okay, every object contains some fields. That means some columns will be available. Then what about those columns? Each and every column will be represented in the form of a variable inside the class. Because when you go to account object, it is having some fields. In the contact object, some fields are there. Lead object, some fields are there. Case object, some fields are there. In my position object, there are some fields. In candidate object, there are some fields. In the loan object, there are some fields. So, whatever the fields are available in this object, every field will be represented in the form of a variable inside this class. Whatever the fields are available, each field will be represented in the form of a variable inside that class. In this case, how can we implement that functionality? Now, so now as a step 2, each field inside the object will be represented in the form of a variable inside the class. Each field inside the object will be represented in the form of a variable inside the class. Whatever the variables are available, every variable will be represented. Okay, every field will be represented in the form of a variable inside the class. This is the second functionality we'll do by ORM. Let's see in this case, how can we do this? So as of now, we have discussed when coming to the ORM is going to be transforming each and every object in the form of a class. And then as a step 2, ORM is going to be transforming each and every field inside the object as a variable inside the class. Now, let's see how it is going to be transforming. Let me explain. Now, for example, position object fields. Position object fields will be represented in the form of a variable. In the form of variables as below. So now tell me in the position object here. Position object will be representing in the form of the class type. Yes. So public class position underscore C. Here the class is available. What fields are there inside the position object right now? What all the fields are available in the position object? Let me show you. In my position object, so many fields are available. These are the fields are available inside the position object. These are the fields are available. These are all other fields. So now here in this case, how it is representing that? Now, so name field. First field is name field. Okay, name field. So why I'm giving the name? Why I'm not giving that position name? Because that already told you in our initial classes itself. So now whenever you are going to be accessing the variables through programming, don't use a field labels. Use always a field name or API names. Okay, use always field name or API name. Don't use field labels. Field labels are only for display purpose. So this is the name. So name contains what? The name of the position. So position name will be nothing but what? Some string type here. So that it will be having that string. Public string name. Next. So what is the next one? Created date and the last, created by and the last modified by, which will be storing what? Date value and time value. So now that will be representing which data type? Okay, date type data type. Okay, date and the time, if you want to store, it will be having date time data type over here. So it will be having that created by, comma, last modified by. Next, after that, it will be holding a full field called as owner. Owner means what? It contains the user. That means user record ID will be storing that. So that this field name is owner ID. Owner ID. So what it contains will be holding the ID of that parent here. If we want to store the ID, then we have to use ID data type over here. You know that each and every data types as part of Apex. Next one, we are having minimum budget and then maximum budget here. You will be having that minimum budget and then you will be having the maximum budget, minimum pay and the maximum budget. Both will be of type what? Currency. Currency will reference which data type? Decimal. So that here we have to define public decimal. What is the variables over here? Minimum pay. This is the minimum pay variable. Comma. What is the next one? Maximum budget. This is the variable. Okay. Variable. And then we have the date fields, like as you will be having the open date and then milestone. So both will be storing the date values of both will be storing date values. So I'm having that open date variable. And then milestone date variable. Okay, milestone date variable. Like that here. Like that here, each and every field will be representing in the form of a variable. Okay, each and every field will be representing in the form of a variable. Now, so in this case, what happened? Whatever the fields are available inside this object, each and every field will be representing in the form of a variable. This is the internal functionality of ORM. As a step 1, whenever we are going to be creating an object, Salesforce is preparing a business logic class. How this is the processor internally. This is the process internally. It will be having that. So whatever the object that we are creating, immediately it will create a table. Based on that table structure, it will be creating that class over. It will create a class. Once the class has been defined, then what it will do is whatever the table structure is there, that means whatever the fields are there inside the table, based on those tables, it will based on the fields, it will be preparing the columns inside these variables inside this particular class. This is the internal concept of ORM. Now, so let me explain one more. For example, I'm having this account object here. Account object fields will be represented in the form of variables as given. Account object will be represented in the form of a class, right? That is public class. And each field inside the object will be represented in the form of a variable. Okay? Each field, each column inside the account table will be represented in the form of a variable. You know what fields are available inside this account object, like as ID field, name field, owner, created by, last modified by, rating field, industry, annual revenue, type, and then we'll be having website, phone number, fax number, active status, and the customer priority, billing street, billing city, billing state, billing postal code, billing country, like the similar way shipping address information, everything is available. So all these fields will be representing in the form of variables. Now, first one is name. Name is of type what? Text box. Text box is representing which data type? String data type. That already told you. During the concept of first platform, during the data types concept that already told you which data type, which field type is differencing, which data type clearly I told you over there. So each number, nothing but auto number field, phone, email, URL, text area, these are all are referencing what? String data type here. Every data type already we have discussed. This is the internal concept of ORM. Generally, nobody will give this ORM concept over there. So simply they will show you how to create the records inside the table. That's it. Then why we are writing the code like that? Because of this ORM. So because of this ORM only, we are going to be writing the code like this. Now, so now let's see here how the account object fields will be representing in the form of variables inside this class. Now let's see the practical part. Account object fields will be representing in the form of the variables. Account object name is available. So that will be of type string. So that will be name field. Rating is also string type. Industry, that is also string type. And then we have phone, that is also string type. Fax, that is also string type. Website, that is also string type. Type of the account, that is also string type. Ownership, that is also of type string type. And then we have active status, active __ C, that is also string type over here. And we are having the customer priority __ C, that is also string type because it is also pick list. Customer priority high, low, medium. Active status is having two values, yes or no. Both are string type, so that it will be storing down. Like the similar way, billing city, billing state, billing country, billing postal code, billing street. Like that, you will be having the variables, each and every variable. Whatever the variables are available, they are going to be representing in the form of a class. Sorry, the variable. Every field will be representing in the form of variable. Next one, we are having annual revenue field. Annual revenue is of type what? Currency. Currency referencing which data type? Decimal. Decimal annual revenue. And then I'm having the date time. Why? Because it will be having the two fields are there, created by, last modified by. Created by, that is also called as created date field, last modified date. Okay, last modified date. And then you will be having a variable over here. Inside my object, I'm having a variable. Let me verify.
For lookup,
Sorry?
for lookup,
Lookup will be ID. Lookup field are referencing what? ID data type, right? Lookup, master detail, hierarchical, everything will be referencing ID data type. Same. No change at all.
okay.
Okay. Now you will be having reference ID field. Sorry, when you go to this account. View fields. In this account object, I have prepared a field called as net amount. Net amount will be of type what? Currency. Currency nothing but decimal data type over here. Okay, decimal data type. And then we have offer discount. Offer discount is of type what? Checkbox. Checkbox is referencing which data type? Boolean. So that it is indicating public Boolean offer discount. Like that here, each and every variable will be represented, each and every field will be representing in the form of a variable inside that class. This is the class which is preparing by ORM automatically. And then along with this variables, it is preparing the 10 methods also. ORM is preparing 10 methods. The first one is save method. Second one, quick save method. Third one, cancel method. Fourth one, delete method. Fifth one, first method. Sixth one, next method. Seventh one, last method. Eighth one, previous method. Ninth one, as previous. As previous method. 10th one, as the next method. These are the 10 methods will be given by Salesforce by default. These 10 methods are common for each and every class also. For every class, for the position of that class also, it is providing the same 10 methods. Because of this 10 methods only, we are able to perform the operation. This is the internal concept of ORM. This class will be preparing by whom? Salesforce is preparing this class. Do we need to prepare this class? No. Then how can we access this class and the class members to interact with this object through programming? We'll see in next session. In the tomorrow session, we'll see how to use these classes and how to manage the records inside the object through programmatically. We'll see practically in tomorrow's session. Tomorrow we'll be having the session as usual. Okay, at same time, we'll be having the session over there. Okay. Tomorrow we have the session as usual over there, and then you will be having the admin session also that already told you, and then admin session, a meeting link I will be placing inside your WhatsApp group also, in your Google Drive also will place that. I will update you with tomorrow morning.